What have I learned from my career? Apart from the importance of being data literate, I think I would encourage anyone listening today to understand that, the ability to be a good communicator is absolutely essential as well. To be able to articulate and, sort of communicate value and answer that so what question, and, be seen as a credible source of information that the people that you're speaking to believe it. And all of that comes from developing strong, communication and presentation skills. And for a lot of people, that's way outside of their comfort zone. And, to sort of build those skills, it's like exercising any muscle. You've got to do it a lot. And I think, sometimes you've got to take the opportunities when they come along.
On today's episode of Careers Unwrap, very excited to have with me today Guy Hanson, who really is a preeminent expert in the fields of digital marketing and data management. We'll go into what that actually means in a moment. He's the Vice President of Customer Engagement at his company Validity, and he's played, I think, quite a pivotal role in shaping strategies that really leverage data to drive businesses' customer engagement, to drive their success, to drive their growth. And additionally, I know he shared his vast knowledge as a speaker at many, over 100 industry events. So he knows what he's talking about. So today, Guy will hopefully share insights from his career, what he's learned along the way, also discuss the evolving landscape of digital and email marketing, and perhaps a bit of advice to the next generation of marketers. So Guy, welcome to Careers Unwrap.
It's a real pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Now, I'll kick off with something quite deep then, actually. So it seems like the whole world of data and email marketing, it is constantly changing. Legislation, technology, consumer behavior, personalization, and things like that. Using your crystal ball, what are the main developments that we're going to see ahead of us in 2025?
Geez, you said we've got about 25 minutes. We need an hour, a whole day for that, but we'll do our best. I think the hot topic certainly now at the start of 2025 is the AI revolution. There was actually a great quote in our industry press a few weeks ago from Sir Martin Sorrell from WPP, and he was talking about AI and going, when ChatGPT was first released and everyone was talking about it, 2023 was the year of wow. And, then we moved into 2024 and, sort of people are wrestling with what to do with it. And in his mind, that was the year of how. And I think, now we're at a point where, especially in my world, the world of marketing, practitioners are thinking of it being the year of now. Now is when we make AI happen. And I guess, what does that mean? I think it's going to shape a lot of the very different ways that, marketing is going to be carried out. AI is going to help with stuff like copywriting and, creating images for your marketing campaigns, better personalization for your messages to your customers and the product recommendations that you're serving them. So I think, we're going to see all of that. We're going to start to see, the millions of different practical applications, that the AI revolution's going to deliver.
Yeah. And as a consumer then, so I get a lot of email. I obviously get my work email. I then get emails from companies I have asked to hear from to tell me about products that I've bought in the past, or I want a new one, or subscriptions that I've got. Also, I get quite a lot of email from people who have no clue where they got my details from or why they're corresponding with me. So in this sort of AI-led transformation, what's going to be better for me as a consumer, as a customer, as a person, rather than the businesses? Is it going to be more relevant to me? Is it going to get rid of things I don't want to hear about?
I think all of the above. I think the sort of sea change that we're going to see in terms of the way that email marketing particularly and marketing generally is going to work is that there's going to be a huge shift from the way that, marketing has traditionally been quite reactive. If you're my customer, I look at your historical data over the last couple of years, I see which of my products you buy, how frequently you buy them, how much you spend on them. And, I use that to sort of build a customer profile of you and make sure that the marketing I serve to you is hopefully relevant and aligned with what you're interested in. I think that's going to shift. We're going to shift from a largely reactive model to a predictive model. AI is going to predict what you need in the future. I had a podcast guest recently, and he was joking about how he had ordered a toilet seat from Amazon. And Amazon promptly starts serving him with, loads and loads of emails going, "Hey, Jay, why don't you buy another toilet seat?" And it's like, I've just bought one. I'm not in the market for another one anytime soon. Predictive, will hopefully get to the point where it knows when Jay's going to need his next toilet seat in a couple of years and serve him with the relevant advertising then.
So it should really be selling him toilet paper rather than toilet seat.
Correct, yeah, or the flanges that you need to to fasten the toilet seat to your toilet. But I think just one sort of additional snippet answering your question. I think we get very excited about the sort of positive implications of AI. I think one challenge for the world of marketing is that, of course, criminals and fraudsters are going to harness it too. They already are, and so I think, we've kind of joked over the years about, the appalling sort of, spam emails that you see, and they're quite easy to identify because they're riddled with spelling mistakes and, grammatical errors. AI is suddenly going to mean that we're going to see a far better quality of spam emails, and they're going to be a lot harder to identify. And they're going to be a lot quicker to produce. There was a great article recently where a team of engineers at IBM pitched themselves against generative AI to see who could come up with a better spam campaign. And the IBM engineers took 16 hours. The AI took 5 minutes, and it got better results. So, there's going to be a downside to this as well.
So the AI-led personalization is not only going to, hopefully as a consumer, bring more relevant things to me at a better time that genuinely might be of use to me. It's also going to make better and higher quality the things that are trying to scam me. So we will be aware from both sides of all of that. Now, one of the key areas around all this is data, and data is talked about at government level, at marketing level, also about protecting from fraud and consumers. And you've been in the world of data for many years now. How much value is data to large organizations? Let's say you're at a massive retailer, a Tesco's, a Sainsbury's, or something like that. Where is the importance placed upon data in a company like that?
When you're talking about businesses like that, the value of their data is probably in the billions of pounds. I think, you think about the channel that I'm involved with, email marketing. What role does it play? It drives visitors to Tesco and Sainsbury's websites, and those visitors then purchase their products, and that's where it monetizes. And I think I've always thought, how do consumers think about this? I always try and put the customer's hat on, and what's it like being on the receiving end of all of this marketing? And I sometimes feel that there is a principle of a value exchange. A typical consumer is happy to give up some personal data about themselves to Tesco and Sainsbury's, name, email address, maybe where they live. But whether they can articulate it to themselves or not, there's a sort of broad understanding that data has some value. And I think what they want to know is that in return for giving that personal data to Tesco or Sainsbury's, they're going to get a broadly equal amount of value back from Tesco or Sainsbury's, whether it's in terms of the discounts that they're going to receive, or the preferential treatment, maybe early access to new promotions, useful information, etc. And I think, if a consumer broadly believes that, the value that they deem their personal data's worth is equivalent to the value that they're getting back from the relationship they've established by giving it, then you're in equilibrium, and everyone's happy and the relationship works.
Now, what we're obviously looking at here is different careers, and I think that's been really useful as an introduction to give context about the area that you work in. But How did this all start for you when you were at school or at college? What were you thinking you wanted to do then, and what were the steps that started you on this career journey?
So this is a podcast. I think if our listeners could see us talking, they'd see all the sort of grey hairs in my beard. We're going back a long time to answer the question that you've just posed. My career started working in a mainframe computer department for a big retail company in South Africa, a bit like South Africa's equivalent of Sainsbury's. And if I paint the picture for you, this mainframe computer environment, it was the size of half a rugby field. And data storage was still very expensive. We had a block of storage about the size of half a London bus. And when the execs would come around for tours of the facility, you'd tell them in sort of hushed tones that there was like 5 megabytes of storage. And everyone would go, "Ooh, wow, that's a lot." So, I've come from a time where, data was very, very limited, and a lot of it got stored on those old open reel tapes, and that was my starting point. And I evolved into digital printing, and then I evolved into digital marketing, because a lot of our printing customers were saying, "Hey, we're starting to hear about the internet, we're starting to hear about email marketing. How do we do it?" And I think the question that you asked, if I was look back on me in high school, and it's, what career might I see myself getting into? Email marketing didn't even exist at the time. It would have been very hard to imagine as a concept in my mind, because, that job hadn't even been created yet.
I think that is really important actually to bear in mind, because although to a lot of listeners now, some of what you're describing may sound a bit old school. I mean, the technology is old school now. But what you've done with your career is both stayed with the technology and stayed ahead of thinking about how to use that technology. And as you just said at the end, what you're doing now didn't exist back then. And for many career starters now, what they're doing, as you described it, when the grey hairs are there, those roles don't exist today. And if you were therefore perhaps talking to some career starters looking at marketing in its wider sense, what do you think are the skills or the areas of knowledge that are really, really important to gain now, so that you've got the foundations for whatever changes are coming ahead?
I think it all comes down to data, doesn't it? I think, pretty much every career, which is sort of new starter in the jobs market is going to be aiming at, data is going to touch it in some kind of way. And I think it's just so essential to, be able to understand data and work with it. And I think, in some respects, at a fairly basic level, I think, for me, over sort of 35 years of working, one of the best skills I ever developed, was being able to work with spreadsheets. And, to any youngster that I was speaking to them today, it would be learn your way around Microsoft Excel. And, not just at a 101 level, put yourself on some training, do the 201 and the 301 versions, learn how to manipulate data, learn how to visualize it. Because I think, that's where the trends start to emerge. And, what are you actually going to do with the data? But I think, that would be my core recommendation. You've got to be data literate, and you've got to be able to build and articulate stories out of that data that you're.
Yeah. I think from my perspective, building on what you said about data, I would add a second critical skill that I've learned over years, which is really just the question, so what? I think it taps into what you've just said about data and then storytelling. Because at one stage to get the data says, right, 43% of our customers of this age and type like that product, or 23% of them opened and read more about this. That only has so much use until you ask the so what question. So you talked about storytelling there about data. What do you mean by not just understanding data, but then moving into storytelling with it?
I think, your point about being able to answer that so what question, sort of drills down to, the nub of this topic. Why should people care about what you're telling them? And, if you look at my world in email marketing, it's critical that those marketing emails get delivered, because if they don't arrive in the target's inbox, they're not going to see those marketing messages, they're not going to engage with them, they're not going to go and buy the products and services that are being promoted. But the so what might be quite different depending on who you're talking to. If I'm talking to the email marketing manager and one of their key measurements is deliverability, the so what is some kind of measurement that makes sure that as close to 100% of their emails are arriving in their customers' inboxes as possible. That's the so what to them. But if you're speaking to their boss, or maybe sort of a member of their C-level team, the chief marketing officer, their so what is quite different. Their question is, how's this going to help my company make more money? And then you've got to be able to talk C-level. You've got to be able to articulate it in their language and, sort of paint the picture that, well, if you get another 1 million of your customers' emails delivered, it's going to drop an extra £100,000 a month of revenue into your business. And then they'll go, oh, yeah, that sounds interesting.
So you've got a lot of interesting steps in terms of measurement of the effectiveness of email marketing and lots of different people at play. So somebody is thinking about, do all of my emails actually arrive, and do they get, are they getting through firewalls? And well, there's the technical aspects, is the data of the email address, right? So there's all of those important pieces. But then someone else is almost taking that as a given. So that's your job, to make them arrive. My job is to use the content and also the targeting to ensure that the person who owns a cat gets a cat insurance message, and the person who owns a dog gets dog insurance message in a way that appeals to their slightly different characters. So that's much more in the area around everything from research to creative to copywriting. And then the finance side is looking much more of how much did we spend on that email campaign? How much money did we make from it? So are you, in your role, touching on all of these areas, or are you advising or creating impact more for different types of people, customers?
Speaking personally, I touch all of those areas because we speak with, all of those different roles and levels. And I think, that comes back to, one of the key points. In fact, probably introducing a new one as well. I think, what have I learned from my career, apart from the importance of being data literate? I think I would encourage anyone listening today to understand that, the ability to be a good communicator is absolutely essential as well, to be able to articulate and, sort of communicate value and answer that so what question, and, be seen as a credible source of information that the people that you're speaking to believe in. And all of that comes from developing strong, communication and presentation skills. And for a lot of people, that's way outside of their comfort zone. And, to sort of build those skills, it's like exercising any muscle. You've got to do it a lot. And I think, sometimes you've got to take the opportunities when they come along, even like today, if somebody asks you, would you be interested in doing a bit of public speaking? And even though your first response is, I'd rather stick red hot needles in my eyeballs, it's great. That's a development opportunity. Let's take it.
Now, we know at Careers Unwrap that a lot of our listeners are in the early stage of their career. They're perhaps in a first job, a second job, or even looking for that first job. But we also get quite a lot of young entrepreneurs. People are trying to start their own thing going. And one particular conversation I had recently, I'm about to throw you a bit of a challenge here, was around how they thought that their business was building through social media. TikTok, Instagram in particular, were helping to promote and push their particular products. And we had a discussion about the role of other channels in that. And they were very skeptical that email marketing had a role to play, and they thought they could do everything through social media. Now, obviously you don't know the person, you don't know the product, but what perhaps would you advise with a 2 or 3 questions they maybe explored or asked themselves to see what part email marketing could play in their overall marketing approach?
I think, although we've spent the last sort of 10 or 15 minutes talking specifically about email marketing, I would absolutely hold up my hand and say that when you're promoting your business, an omnichannel approach, which has elements of social media, maybe has elements of mobile marketing involved, and those different channels complement each other, is absolutely the way to go. The reason I say that is because ultimately it comes down to what your customers want. And, your customers may interact in different ways. They may research a product that they are thinking or buying on their laptops. But we know that social proof is so important in terms of persuading people, to make a purchase. So, if you are seeing people like your peers in social media, articulating the value of a product, that carries a lot of weight in terms of is it a good product or not. But when you transact, you want that transaction to happen in real time. You probably want to receive your order confirmation by email in seconds so that it's completed. If it's going to be delivered, you want to get that text message from the delivery company telling you when they're going to arrive. So, every channel has a role to play. And I think, especially for people that are starting up their own businesses, I think taking feedback from their customers in terms of what works best for them is one of the best possible things you can do. And sort of, learning tips and tactics in terms of how to solicit that feedback from your customers and then acting upon it is going to be a vital part of your success, whether it's putting customer survey links in the emails that you're sending them, or even real life interactions. Tell us what was good about, working with us and acting on that. So important.
Now, in this whole area, there has been and will continue to be a lot of innovation. And I think it's interesting to sort of perhaps step away from the big picture, the general, and to if you could paint for us a picture of a real recent campaign or a real recent strategy development where you found it rewarding because it's been innovating and interesting and effective, and perhaps just paint a bit of a picture about the different people and roles that are involved in creating a campaign.
So probably starting with the last, who creates a campaign. I think, that there's going to be, there will be a person or a team who's responsible for the data, which includes the data that you need to deliver that message, whether it's an email address or a mobile number or whatever. But also, what that data is telling you about the person you're trying to message, whether it is their previous buying history or what their needs or interests are. So, you got that data person. There's going to be, probably a creative person or team that's designed for, that's responsible for designing the imagery that you're going to be using, creating the text and the messaging that's part of that. You're going to have an execution team that's responsible for the actual delivery of those messages. You're quite possibly going to have some kind of analytics function, sort of looking at how well did it work? Did we generate the response rates, the views, the traffic to our websites that we were expecting? So, all of those have a role and they sort of feed into each other as part of an ongoing process. I think in terms of, have I seen individual campaigns that, I find particularly effective? I think I'm a great believer in timing, and recently, there's been a sort of new principle on the marketing calendar of Blue Monday, and Blue Monday is usually it's about the third Monday of January, and it's officially the most miserable day of the year. People are still struggling to pay off their Christmas debts, and the days are still dark and the weather's still appalling, and apparently sort of divorce rates peak at this time of the year as well. So it's a bad day, but it's a gift to marketers. And when I receive an email from a travel company going, hey, we're starting to think ahead to summer holidays, and they're just serving me this glorious, sun-dappled beach imagery and, sort of twinkling blue sea. Firstly, it's absolutely getting me thinking, right, I am so ready to receive a message about a nice holiday in a couple of months' time. But even at a sort of, psychological level, just being served with a sort of nice picture of a sunny beach, in the depths of a miserable British midwinter is, it's like a little ray of sunshine in its own right. So I think, in marketing, timing is everything. And I think, being able to recognize a marketing opportunity like that and serve it up to your customers in a timely fashion, it is a great tactic.
Yeah, I was reading recently how there is increasing evidence-based understanding that the way that people use their social media, and also in particular, I was looking at this in the way that people use gaming, is affected by their moods. And if you can get the algorithms right, you'll know that person A looking at their TikTok today is in a generally happy mood, and person A looking at their social media tomorrow is in a generally unhappy mood. And once that's harnessed, you'll be able to automatically set the timing of certain messages. I only want these messages to go to people when they're in a happy mood, or I only want them to go to these messages when people are feeling down and in need of a holiday. So the personalization and the level of that you were mentioning at the beginning is just going to grow and grow, which again is positive in one aspect, a little scary on the flip side of the coin. I'm interested in what you just said there about the timing piece of this and the data and many people involved, because I recall some work we were doing at We're Futures for children in need it's a good while ago now. It's about 8 or 9 years ago. But they wanted to increase the amount of fundraising through schools. Children needs a big thing in schools anyway. So the amount of data analysis we did at the beginning of it, of what schools raise them every year, what only every 2 years, how much they raise, the proportion they raise to the number of students, how did that match to a whole load of other demographic information about the region the school was in, allowed us to go to a certain level of sophistication in terms of understanding who raised well and also where the opportunity was, because there were types of schools that were doing children need at all that matched the types of schools that were raising a lot of money for them. That then led very much into the creative thinking around, well, okay, how do we engage different schools, different teacher personality types to want to raise children needs? That then fed through to the email marketing. And this was months of deep, deep work that probably can be sped up a lot now. But the end result of it was increases across the board for the amount of money raised for that fantastic charity that went to their good causes. But it was all led by what you've been describing in terms of starting with the data and really understanding it and then using that to tell stories from there.
100%. And I think, it can get very sophisticated, but I think, there's also easy wins as well. I've worked with a lot of programs where we overlay weather against their marketing effectiveness. If you're working with a Pizza Express, for example, it's probably intuitive that people are more likely to, transact in on a sort of dark, cold evening, than in the summer when they're out, in the park playing footy with their mates, for example. And I also have a pet topic where I think about time of month, almost like payday poverty, and depending on what kind of product you're selling, you're probably going to get to a stage of the month where the people that you're marketing to are just naturally going to be less responsive to your offers because they don't have that much disposable cash in their pocket anymore. So you need to wait until the next payday's arrived before they're in a position to transact with you, and sort of thinking about those cycles and how it's going to determine your marketing effectiveness. They're simple principles, but they're going to play a big role in determining your effectiveness.
And you said about the AI going from sort of 2023 of AI wow to AI how last year to AI now. And once you start feeding into this messaging, not just only the accurate data, but the time it is in each person's salary month, the weather that's coming around, whether you're picking up their moods in all of that, the level of personalization is just going to go on and on. It's going to be quite incredible. And I think on that, I'd always like to bring this back to think about people starting out in their careers now. And you've obviously hired a lot of people in your time, worked with a lot of different people as well. So what would you be looking for in terms of some career starters who might be coming to work very closely with you in terms of attitudes or skills? What's the sort of thing you're looking for in younger talent?
I've always thought about it that you are, you're obviously looking for, the correct training and, that they've developed skills which are, competencies in terms of the role that you're looking for. Those are important. I think hopefully you're looking for some previous working experience, which is aligned with the role that you're looking to fill. That's important as well. But as a hiring manager, I've always found that there's a little bit of gut feel as well. I think, I'm always looking for a little bit of a spark of passion. We're a marketing business, we're an email marketing company. Can you demonstrate to me that fires you up? Can you give me like a little story or an anecdote that sort of proves it's going to sort of bring you to work in the morning with a smile on your face? So, I'm always looking for that little spark of passion, and can you articulate why you're passionate about it? I think, hiring managers are absolutely looking for, self-starters. Absolutely. We'll provide the training to help you be successful in your role, but, demonstrate to me that you're curious and that, you might be happy to, step outside of your job description once in a while, because I think, that's good for people as they're building a career anyway. I think, when occasionally, that special project comes along and, the sort of manager of the team goes, hey, anyone interested in getting involved? Absolutely, you should, partly because it shows willing, but partly because it's an opportunity to, expand your skills base as well. So I think, those are some of the things that I've traditionally looked for as we've gone through interviewing.
Guy, I think it's been a fascinating conversation, and also because of my area of work in my day job, I could turn this into a full day conversation without a doubt. So that's so much I want to learn. But I think what we have done in this short conversation is really lifted the lid on something which at the beginning people go, oh, data, email marketing, oh, and is that for me? Sounds a bit dry. But I think what we've been clear on is, first of all, the critical nature of data in all forms of marketing. So whatever direction you're going in that area, be comfortable with data, understand it, be a storyteller, learn how to communicate the story of the data. What does it actually mean? And how do you use this data? That, I think, has come out really clearly. I think that the role of data at the heart of so many campaigns. So whatever a listener's personal favorite might be, a recent Christmas ad, a really good piece of content on social that they've seen that's engaging them with a product. Behind that, people are working on the data, not just on the creative content that you see in front of them. I think also the points you made about having a multi-channel approach anyway, and about the many, many different roles that are involved in creating a campaign are important as well. So that's also something to bear in mind. Your points about AI-led increased personalization, and also that there's been so much change in your career from where you started to where you are now. And arguably that pace of change is only going to accelerate for somebody who starts in this area now by the time they reach the grey hair advisory stage as well. And I think I would like to just also pick up on the points you made right at the end there in terms of what you're looking for in people coming to this area. Of course, training matters, but you can give people training. You said about people showing a spark of passion, about people having a story, and people who are curious. And I think that for all areas of marketing, but especially if you're going in to really understand how to use data and how to use it to make a marketing difference, you're going to be incredibly valuable to any business, because the importance of data is only going to increase more and more. So Guy, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's been really interesting, and anyone who listens can always look you up on LinkedIn as well, and other areas. But it's an area, definitely learn more about it if you're interested in business. Guy, thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
This podcast is sponsored by We Are Futures. To find out more about We Are Futures and how we can introduce your brand, business, or organization to the mass markets of tomorrow, visit www.wearefutures.com. Make sure to search for Careers Unwrapped in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Remember to click subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at We Are Futures, thanks for listening.